All the way back on the 14th of July, the Shambler took on Zopeys, a man who has not signed up for Acropolis number 2. And you still have today to sign up, because on today is the last day that we accept new players into Gauntlet Stage A. And you know what, if you're watching this later on, well, we've got another tournament that you can sign up to, well, another qualifier you can sign up to, so there's always that as well. But a last-ditch effort to get Zopeys on the board, and also, of course, a moment to reflect on Terran versus Terran, on a map that is, actually, no, I don't think it's ever been featured in the Castover sagas, and look at that, it's actually not even Terran versus Terran. What a classic move. It is Chuck Norris, a.k.a. the Shambler. He did not spell Chuck Norris correctly. That is exactly what Shambler does. That's how you know it's the Shambler, because he didn't spell it correctly. And he is down here in the bottom right as the, I'm going to guess the, is this just classic red Zerg? There it is. Zopeys over here telling us that he's from Starcraft 2 and Dawn of War. An interesting backstory there. We've got him as the, I'm going to say Blood Terran? Yeah, okay. I got a good number of color guesses wrong recently, so it's nice to finally be able to tell what's blood and what's maroon. Of course, I can't really say that with any guarantee that I have quashed that particular beef, but yeah, it's just one of those things. We are on a map called Secluded Reliquary by Jujic, a map that I was giving some feedback on during the era that we hear, in the era that we're at right now. And so a lot of manual tile placements were had. Most of the map is made of custom tiles or manually adjusted tiles at the very least. You know, all of this stuff being on grass is not a native tile blend, but Cosmonarchy allows for it. And so this is where we are at as far as that's concerned. Actually, I think since then, nice bitty tile, there is a case where we blended grass with the water and the bridge. So that's actually something that could be updated, or maybe it already was updated. Meanwhile, Shambler obviously immediately going into his classic typing spiel, where he just types about, if he types about cucking his build order, then when his opponent invariably kills him for it, he has an excuse ready-made to fall back on. But, you don't really want to say that. I mean, maybe I think he actually doesn't say that when it comes to, he doesn't say that often when it comes to, like, looking at the tournament matches, right? He usually won't type that, although he has done it before, so it is kind of funny. Obviously, this being Flashback Friday, this is a way back game. This is a game from old Eco, and quarries provide the mason and take longer to make and such. And of course, it's a bio opener because Zopeys is a real Chad. I've talked about Zopeys before, but Zopeys is a man who he enjoyed playing Cosmonarchy bio so much that he decided to play bio versus Terran and versus Protoss in StarCraft 1. And I just think that's Giga Chad behavior. He really likes his bio, so very interesting. Would love to see another bio enjoyer. Shambler's actually turned into a bio enjoyer as a Terran player. He has signed up for the Battlement stage of Acropolis number 2 as a bio player. I mean, a Terran player. Well, yeah, probably also a bio player. So very interesting stuff there. I do have to shout out. I guess the bio players really are Zerg players, right? So I'm interested. I'm interested in seeing where everything goes. It'll be really exciting when we get to that Battlements phase, because Neblime, who also accepted his invite back, was not actually able to stick around for like the period of time leading up to where we are at with the rest of the tournament. Like, he doesn't know about the his availability leading into the prep for the Battlement stage. He's gonna get off his plane from his vacation, go straight back into like, oh yeah, Cosmonarchy, and then basically he's gonna be in a spot where he has to immediately start practicing and prepping. So it'll be very interesting. I don't even know if he'll be able to keep up with like the balance discussions, the castovers, etc. It'll be very interesting to see what happens there. Zopeys gonna go ahead and drop a treasury at his natural. We've got Quasilisks leaving the building here. They can actually bust anchors, but I feel like this is a touch too many Mavericks, especially if you end up giving them that stim pack. And we do have a Zorkish Shred coming for follow-up. So we could end up seeing Lakizalisks. That's the new lurker for Zerg. It fires the projectile, and then the projectile returns back to the Lakizalisk. So you could just imagine the amount of damage that you can do with that, because for each individual unit, you can hit it twice with the projectile there, once on the way in and once on the way out. Now, this is not the angle of attack Shambler wants to take, because as you can see, a lot of his units were bunching up down there. If he ends up sort of spreading them out into an arc, you can definitely imagine getting a better shot there. It looks like Zopeys is going to go ahead and lackadaisically repair his anchor. This one, Quaz is going to go ahead and move around. And I do like the idea of sort of standing guard over this this ramp. I'm not sure about the burrow, but actually, you still have pretty good vision of it here, so it's well selected. You want to do that in case there's a move out from the Terran, right? Like, Zopeys could just, like, walk out, and you know, Shambler would have no idea. Meanwhile, a Vestry is third stockade, so we can see the build developing here for our bio player in the top left. Meanwhile, Chuck Norris, aka the Shambler, is going to go ahead and set up his expansion, add another hatch. He's had his defensively placed Larvosk. So all is well with the world. This matchup actually doesn't look so different than before, except for obviously there's a Treasury and a Quarry super early. So both of those things are not usually what ends up happening in the modern meta. But you know, bio into Zerg is not entirely unseen. Shambler plays it. Aoud plays a nice mix of like bio and mech. He's practiced a bunch of different styles. I was watching him play Gerald Storm earlier today. As of the time of recording, it is Thursday, of course. So you know, you got to record Flashback Friday at least a day in advance. So that was interesting, and yeah, it's definitely cool to see more stuff like that. Another couple of Kagrants coming on down. One of them turning into a Spraith. We'll see what the other one goes for. Probably, yeah, looks like another Spraith, judging by the build menu in the top right. Little production tab, courtesy of Darkened Fantasies. Second Quarry now being equipped. Zopeys is behind in worker count, but, you know, you kind of expect to be versus Zerg. And it looks like we're going to be developing into a lot of hatches for the Zerg player, but he's still, I mean, he's banking a little bit of Vespene here. He's made his Zorkas, but it doesn't look like he pulled the trigger. He's kind of got this, like, soft contain coming on. But he doesn't really know what's up here for Zopeys. Zopeys has kept his anchor staffed, so that will defend versus the Quaz that might end up coming in for a bit of a backstab. And he's not also rallying more units down. The third base is in jeopardy here. If the third base gets shut down, well, the advantage for the Shambler is pretty much null and void. A little bit of light body blocking here from Zopeys, who is going to go ahead and just use his rallyable units to clear out the Quaz. They shouldn't get too much damage. There's even a Cleric here to heal those units. Unfortunately, he's having his own sort of unit backstab or like body block moments, but he's going to descend upon the third base, and these are going to get cleared up. They did get 3 workers. That's way more than they really should have, but you know, Zopeys not the quickest on the draw there. Going to go ahead and he's not actually going to clear out the Droleth. Interestingly enough, the Shaman could be in a position to help deal with the hatch, but we do have a pivot into Gorgs. You do need to use that stim pack from the perspective of the Mavericks. Going to go ahead and deploy the Shaman. There's the stim. And it kicks in, and he's able to immediately focus down those Gorgs. That's a pretty good round. He should probably re-stim to deal with these Quaz a little bit easier, especially since the Shaman's been brought down. But it looks like that's going to be enough to dissuade the Shambler from taking that attack. Expensive, and a good set of damages to put down. We do have a latent Treasury here. More Mavericks being scrambled and moved around. Can definitely drop that at the third base at some point. He's going to go ahead and lift it, and looks like he's going to do just that. Avaleth out here with the one Quaz. I guess that could be mildly annoying. Many more Quaz moving across the map. They will be intercepted by the bio of Zopeys. Meanwhile, the Gorgs are just moving elsewhere. Look, he's not on attack move. That's going to be a little bit of a mistake, I think. He didn't even go ahead and stim them. And now the one Quaz revealing that the third base is indeed being taken. That Bioforce just gets mostly mopped up. There's a couple more that go on down, but they're going to need to re-max over here and sort of mass up once again. Bit of an all-over-the-place kind of fight, but the Gorgs are about to move across, and we do have 2 of them attacking the Treasury. That should clue Zopeys in. Hey, I need to, for one, make more workers, and for another, probably throw down some anti-air. But it doesn't look like he's going to be too keen on doing that here. Those Gorgs could end up giving him a run for his money. And you know what? He should be able to intercept one of them. That looks pretty good to me. He's going to kill at least one. If he ended up splitting or re-stimming, he would have actually killed all of these, I think. But as it stands, he might just narrowly kill one of them. Yeah, okay. Other Mavericks do end up coming in here to deny significant damage. Look at that. One of the Gorgs almost dead. You know, this one down here is going to get a couple of Mason kills. It looks like that'll be it. Meanwhile, over here, still holding down the fort, holding down the bridge, and yeah, Shambler's going to choose to respect that. He does have enough resources for Tier 2. We should see him considering that very soon, but for now, it looks like he's just going to be keen on moving around. Looks like he's down to just his last 2 Gorgs. He's going to continue to apply some pressure here. Zopeys has not been on the ball when it comes to the worker production, I will say that. And now, the middle of the map, once again, the site of much bloodshed. We need to see those stims, Zopeys. Yeah, get them stims, boy. All right. Well, he's still going to get cleaned up over here just because of the sheer number of Quasilisks. But if we had more active stimming, this would have been a much more swung fight here for the Terran player. As it is, he should be able to keep a couple of units down there. But he needs more barracks, stockades. He needs definitely more workers. He's really light on the worker count right now. And part of that is due to the harassment, but I've also just noticed he's been not training them all the time. So sometimes his worker queues would be idle. We do have the Iris, a little bit under halfway complete, so we will have tier 2 in the cards for the Shambler. He's got his Obeleth out here for a scout, might posture as if he's going to drop something, and it has been that kind of harassment-oriented game. And it makes sense with these very open mains that are very hard to see all of. I think a revision to this map that might end up being somewhat useful would actually be like if you cut into this excessively buildable space, and then maybe like, I don't know what you would do with that extra space, but that might be a wise decision, because right now it's very, very open, and you can fit a lot of production in there, but you're so far away from your actual your ramp out anyway. Many more bases being set up here, many more hatches being set up here for the Shambler, as his third base is thrumming up by about 30 workers. Definitely has the ability to leapfrog into something even greater. He's gone a full scout. He knows that his opponent is on the third base as well. But the worker count is significantly favoring the Zerg player, who is going for the Spire and the Nest. Going to be upgrading his tech. Now, this Maverick-based hit is going to come in before Zopeys is really going to be facing down too many advanced Zerg units. He does need to focus down these Gorgs before they shred his Mavericks. He does have more units coming in, but the cliff advantage on the Quasis and the fact that so many Mavericks ended up dying, this is a bloody battle indeed. More Gorgs coming in. I think when you see the Gorgs there, you probably want to pull back and then target down the Gorgs, right? Because, like, you can target those down, and, you can see just how powerful the stimmed Mavericks can actually be when they just focus their DPS onto one thing. It dies very fast. Just enough shooting will kill anything. That's the Maverick motto. Looks like a fourth base in the cards, or fifth base, actually, as fourth has already been taken over at the... I guess you could call that the 4 o'clock position. More Mavericks coming on in. This should be a winning fight for Terran, but he did not stim his Mavericks, so it might not actually be a winning fight for him, but I think he's going to have just enough to pull through here, partially thanks to those Clerics who continue to heal. More and more Mavericks being pumped out, slammed out. You could definitely add like 3 or 4 more stockades here, though, and of course you could be thinking about your extra bases. And look at that! The last vestiges of the fight. No, you can't run away! It's 4 versus 1! You can't do that! Aw, man. Oh, you just let your woman die. That's like intentionally throwing your woman at the zombies or something. More and more and more when it comes to the Gorgs and the Quas. We did get the extra tech, but actually, even though there are some in production here for the Shambler, he's not really leveraging it. He doesn't really have it with his army. He is going to go ahead and try to take advantage of having mid-control, if you want to call it that. But look, there's so many Mavericks, and most of the army here is split for the Shambler. He's got a bunch of Gorgs kind of idling over at that forward base in the right-hand side, and the stim comes out. Zopeys should be good to clear out some of these Mavericks, but look, here come the Gorgs, and there's 5 of them. One of them's already died. This is going to clear the deck for the Terran player. He also spots the Matroleths. We'll get into what those do in a moment, but for now, I just want to take stock. We really don't have that many military units here for Zopeys. His production has not scaled up with the threat of the Zerg, so this could actually be the final push here in favor of the Shambler. He does end up losing more and more of his Gorgs. They are getting focused down so nicely by Zopeys. He really should focus down the Matroleths. They apply an ensnaring aura to all of the Zerg units around them. It looks like, however, Shambler didn't quite get his attack move off there. A lot of his Quas were just right-clicked into that spot, so that's no good. But the Matroleths, in addition to providing ensnare on an aura, where basically any Zerg unit or any ally of the Matroleth within a certain amount of range will provide you with ensnare on hit. You can imagine how useful that is versus things like Protoss or, honestly, even like the mech-based builds. It's a little bit less useful versus Bio because there's so many individual units you'd have to try to debuff. The other thing that they do is they can spawn Vilgaleths, which are very differently colored eggs that convert corpses into brood spawn. Again, of limited value when you only have Mavericks to deal with. But, it is something more for them to deal with. It is something more for them to shoot that's not the main army. So I can definitely see it being valuable. We do have Tier 2 now complete for Zopeys. He's adding in a captaincy. Maybe we'll end up seeing Apostles mixed in. There's the stim. Gets a very nice initial engage. Needs to deploy those Shamans, and they are going to be focused down. But the Zoryus, the front line, mostly dealt with for now. However, the Convolisks are absolutely shredding this Bio army. In addition to all their bounce attacks, they're also incubating brood spawn on them. So the Reliquaries get spawned in afterwards. And, you know, those units have lifesteal. Those units are not, you know, free to kill. They do have some health. And so now we're finally seeing a couple of units being mixed in here. I see some Hurricanes added to the mix for rending the armor. It looks like, I don't know what was going on here. It looks like a bit of a wraparound of the Mavericks, but you can see they just get dove on, courtesy of the Convolisks. A bunch of units got trapped in the trees. What is this, Vietnam simulator? Meanwhile, just scouting out the top right, trying to cancel any base that might be going down over there. And a single Quaz is going to reveal the 10 o'clock position here that doesn't actually have any defenses up. He's going to go ahead and, I would say, very heavily overreact to the one Quaz by moving most of his army out. This could be a classic sort of newer player move where the Shambler could take advantage of this. He's also making 5 pairs of Mutalisks to sort of switch out and sending a small raiding force over here. It looks like now Zopeys kind of caught between inactivity here. Needs to dive bomb onto these Convolisks before they can spawn too many brood spawn on the worker line, as well as obviously the Mavericks, who are just busy attacking those units. You can see in small quantities the Convolisks can be very useful. Instead, the Masons are going to get evacuated, but there's an attack waiting for them at the third base, and the Bio army has not sprung to action just yet. Zopeys now gathering his forces, going to go ahead and proc that stim, but he's not even in the battle. He's going to need to redo it again before it expires, and it doesn't look like he's yet up to the task. He has lost the treasury. Remember, when you build the treasury, you're trading out low durability for the town center. It gets sniped immediately. The one at 10 o'clock also gone. And so even though this force will be cleaned up, he's down to 36 workers. He doesn't have much worker production, and he's still going to lose so many Mavericks to the Convolisks that are in this spot. A very winning position here for the Shambler, who should be able to just sort of mass up and win. Another thing that you could have done with the Zopeys positions, he could have just stimmed and then killed the convies. He has to focus those down because otherwise his units will automatically acquire the brood spawn that are going to be spawning on top of the Bio from those on-hit effects. Meanwhile, the 18 Mutalisks that have amassed are going to come in here and deal with a single watchdog. No, look away, shopkeeper dog, look away, as the Mutas descend upon the natural. Protathalors have arrived, but there's not really anything to absorb the pressure for them. More units will be moved in through the middle of the map, and I think it's just much too much for Zopeys to deal with. He calls GG, and we have had ourselves a pretty thematic game, I would say. All things considered, pretty interesting stuff. Got to see some ZVT, got to see Flashback Friday. Even though Zopeys didn't take it, I hope he looks at this and says, oh yeah, Cosmonarchy, that epic mod for Starcraft 1 that turns it into a whole new game. And that made me really like playing Bio. Yeah, I'll play that, and signs up for the tournament. And I hope you watching, if you aren't signed up for the tournament, if you don't even know what I'm talking about, check out Acropolis 2. We've got the announcement in the video description for this video. You can check it out and see what you think. But also, you can just decide to watch it. You can watch the games that are going to be coming out over the next little bit of time. Starting on Monday next week, we will be looking at a lot of the series that are going to be being played for that qualifier. And of course, I'll be shilling everything there is to shill regarding the second qualifier. Signups for that will open up on Saturday as well. So I'll see you guys then. GG's.